Apache sisters sold like cattle, a lonely rancher who bought them said, "Let's go home." The desert of New Terra stretched endlessly, a sea of red sand and jagged rock formations that glowed under the twin suns. From a distance, the land looked lifeless, but for those who knew its secrets, it was a place of hidden wonders and dangerous opportunities. Hovercraft tracks crisscrossed the dunes, and the occasional ruin of a once thriving settlement reminded travelers that the frontier was not for the weak. Jace Callahan rode his hoverbike along a narrow canyon trail, the engine's low hum blending with the wind that carried sparks of sand. He had been alone for many years, ever since he lost his family to a raider attack in the northern wastes. The ranch he had built was modest, solar panels to catch the fierce sunlight, wind turbines spinning lazily on the cliffs, and a small herd of genetically enhanced cattle that could survive the harsh conditions. He lived quietly, relying on his skills and instinct, avoiding trouble whenever possible. But the solitude had its weight. Even in a world with distant spaceports and bustling colonies, Jace felt the emptiness of isolation. Nights were long, filled with the howls of wind that sounded almost human, and the horizon stretched so far that it reminded him of the vastness of the galaxy itself. One afternoon, as he adjusted a panel on the water recycler, a distant hum caught his attention. Not the soft hum of his machinery, but a heavy mechanical pulse that grew louder with each passing minute. He squinted toward the horizon, seeing a convoy of transport pods moving in formation. They were not local traders or miners. These pods carried the mark of the New Terra corporations, a sign that whatever they transported was valuable and perhaps illegal. Curiosity and caution pushed him forward. He mounted his hoverbike and followed at a distance, staying hidden behind the rock formations. The convoy stopped at a natural plateau and the doors of several pods opened. Inside, Jace could see them. 3 young women, their hands and feet restrained with energy cuffs, standing silently but not broken. Their clothing was simple, worn, but their posture was proud. They were Apache sisters, known across the frontier not just for their cultural heritage, but for their skill in surviving and thriving in harsh environments. The traders spoke among themselves, careless and loud, discussing the price they would get for the woman. Jace's jaw tightened. He had seen the corporate transport system treat people like cargo before, but seeing it up close still made his blood boil. Without hesitation, he made a decision. He approached openly, hoverbike kicking up a cloud of red dust, and called out, "I'll take them." The traders laughed, thinking he was joking or bluffing. "You? Alone? You have no credits, no authorization? Walk away, old man. I have enough and I'll make it worth your while. Let them go." Then, one of the traders, short, wiry, with a cybernetic eye, smirked. "You've got credits? Show us." Jace nodded, and a small drone flew from his saddlebag, carrying a compact data cube loaded with transfer credits. The trader scanned it quickly, eyes widening at the amount. "You're serious," he muttered, stepping aside. "Get them." Jace's hoverbike hummed beneath him, and he spoke gently. "It's okay. You're safe now. Let's go home." Their eyes met his. There was wariness, but also a flicker of hope. One of the sisters, the oldest, finally stepped forward. Her name was Ayana. She moved with grace and caution, scanning the area for threats even as she approached. The middle sister, Nayeli, and the youngest, Taya, followed, their gazes sharp and observant. None of them spoke, but the trust in Jace's words began to grow. The journey back to his ranch was tense. The desert was unforgiving, and patrols from the corporations might track them. Jace led cautiously, navigating through narrow canyons and over hidden dunes, taking advantage of his knowledge of the land. The sisters adapted quickly to the hoverbike's rhythm, holding on with a mix of fear and determination. By nightfall, the trio arrived at the ranch. The compound was modest but fortified, with walls designed to withstand both raiders and desert storms. Lights glowed softly from the solar panels, and the hum of generators filled the quiet night. The sisters dismounted carefully, their eyes scanning every shadow. Inside, the small house smelled of metal and dust, a scent of solitude that Jace had grown accustomed to. He offered them water and food, and for the first time in hours, they allowed themselves to relax, sitting at the worn table and looking around. Ayana finally spoke. Why help us?" "No one does that anymore," Jace shrugged, sitting across from them. "I've been alone long enough to know that people need each other. You don't deserve what they did to you." The youngest sister, Taya, tilted her head, curious but cautious. "And now we're just with you? Strangers in the middle of nowhere?" "You're not strangers anymore," Jace said firmly. "You're home. At least, it will be if you let it." They explored the ranch, finding solace in the small comforts of life, fresh water from the recycling system, the gentle sound of wind turbines, and even the small herd of enhanced cattle that roamed the paddocks. They taught Jace some of their ways, blending old Apache traditions with the survival skills honed for the harsh desert. Nights were the hardest. The wind howled, and the distant hum of warp traffic reminded them that danger was never far. But around a small fire in the main courtyard, stories were exchanged. Ayana spoke of the lands they had left behind, Nayeli of the innovations she had learned, and Taya of the dreams she still carried. Jace listened, realizing that he had stumbled into a life far richer than he had imagined. It wasn't long before the sisters showed the skills that made them valuable and dangerous to the corporations. Ayana had a keen eye for terrain and traps. Nayeli could interface with almost any machine, and Taya had a natural gift for strategy and planning. Jace watched them with a mix of pride and caution. He knew the corporations would not forget their loss, and that sooner or later someone would come looking. The desert nights stretched long, filled with stars and the occasional flare from distant spacecraft. Jace could feel the tension growing, the quiet before a storm he knew was inevitable. Yet for the first time in years, he also felt something else. Hope. Hope that even in a galaxy ruled by corporations, greed, and violence, there was room for people to choose freedom, safety, and family. By the end of the week, the sisters had adapted not just to the ranch, but to each other and to Jace. There was a bond forming, quiet and resilient, a promise that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And as Jace looked at the three women around the table laughing quietly for the first time since their capture, he realized that home was not just a building, not just a place. It was the people who chose to fight for each other, no matter the odds. In the distance, the desert remained vast and silent, but the ranch glowed faintly in the night, a beacon of resilience and hope. And for Jace Callahan, the lonely rancher, that glow was more than lights on a wall. It was the start of a new life, a life worth defending, in the unforgiving, neon-lit expanse of New Terra. The morning sun on New Terra painted the desert in harsh gold and red. Jace Callahan stood on the balcony of his small homestead, scanning the horizon through a pair of reinforced binoculars. From the distance, the dunes looked empty, but Jace knew better. This land had a way of hiding threats, and after buying the Apache sisters from the convoy, he could not afford to underestimate anyone. Inside the house, Ayana, Nayeli, and Taya were awake, exploring the compound with cautious curiosity. The sisters had started to settle in, but the events of their capture were still fresh in their minds. Each step they took in the ranch was measured, their eyes constantly observing, scanning for anything unusual. Ayana crouched near the cattle paddock, her fingers brushing the ground. "These tracks," she said softly, pointing at faint marks in the red sand. "Someone came by last night. They were careful, but not careful enough."
Jace frowned.
"Could be wind," he said, though he did not believe it. He had learned that desert storms could erase tracks in hours. But these were distinct, too precise to be accidental. Nayeli tapped at a small control panel near the water recycler. "The sensors we set up last night picked some energy spikes," she added. "Not far from here. Low power, short bursts, like someone testing defenses." Taya looked toward the horizon, her young face serious. "They're watching. I can feel it. Whoever they are, they know we're here." Jace rubbed his jaw. He had hoped for a quiet life, and for a moment he thought about retreating further into the wastelands. But that was not an option anymore. The sisters were with him now, and he could not let them face danger alone. "We need to be ready," he said finally. "If anyone comes, we defend this place. Understood?" All three sisters nodded. They did not speak much, but their resolve was clear. As the day progressed, the ranch settled into an uneasy routine. Jace worked on repairs and maintenance, ensuring the fences were strong and the hovercraft ready. Ayana taught him how to read the desert better, spotting subtle signs of approaching travelers, while Nayeli explored the ranch's small but powerful network of machines, enhancing sensors, linking security drones, and adding hidden cameras. Taya, meanwhile, mapped the terrain, marking escape routes, choke points, and defensive positions should intruders arrive. By afternoon, a faint hum broke the quiet. Jace froze. The sisters were already moving, instinct guiding them. From the ridge above the ranch, a scout drone hovered, scanning the compound. Its metallic body glinted under the sun, and a red sensor eye swept across the fences. Nayeli moved first, stepping lightly behind a wind turbine. Her fingers danced over the controls of a nearby terminal, sending a counter-signal that scrambled the drone's tracking. It wobbled, then veered off, malfunctioning. Ayana whispered, "Good, but they'll try again. Prepare for more." Jace watched with growing admiration. The sisters were not just survivors, they were fighters. He realized they could teach him things he had long forgotten, skills he had buried under years of loneliness. As night fell, the desert became a place of shadows and whispers. The stars above shimmered, but they offered no comfort. Jace, armed with a plasma rifle, and the sisters, each carrying compact energy blades and defensive tools, waited in the darkness. Their small ranch became a fortress, walls reinforced, traps set, and patrol drones in the sky. Around midnight, movement appeared. Dust rose on the horizon as a group of mercenaries, armed and armored, approached the ranch in armored hover trucks. Their intent was clear. They had tracked the convoy, learned the sisters' new location, and were coming to reclaim them. Taya's voice was calm but firm. "They'll test the perimeter first. We need to draw them in." Ayana nodded. "Follow the plan. Keep them busy. Don't let them know the full strength." The first hover truck reached the perimeter. Automated alarms blared, and the dust storm kicked up, hiding the ranch in swirling red clouds. Jace fired his plasma rifle, creating a bright streak of light across the dunes, hitting the truck's sensors. Mercenaries paused, unsure of the source. Nayeli activated the ranch's defense drones. They hovered silently before speeding toward the attackers, emitting electromagnetic pulses that short-circuited hover engines and communication systems. One truck spun out of control, crashing into the dunes with a shower of sparks. The sisters moved with precision. Ayana leapt onto the roof of a defensive wall, her energy blade slicing a support drone that tried to flank them. Nayeli hacked into another truck's navigation system, sending it veering toward a sand pit that swallowed it partially. Taya coordinated her hand signals, guiding Jace and the sisters to weak points in the mercenary formation. The skirmish lasted hours, each side testing the other. Jace realized that the sisters were not only skilled but brilliant. They anticipated moves, exploited weaknesses, and stayed calm under pressure. He had never seen anything like it. Finally, the remaining mercenaries retreated, their trucks damaged and systems compromised. The desert returned to quiet, with only the distant stars and the hum of Jace's ranch equipment breaking the silence. The sisters gathered with him near the small fire pit. Their faces were streaked with dust and sweat, but their eyes shone with determination. "That was close," Jace admitted, exhaustion in his voice. "They'll be back. Next time, it might not be just a few mercs. They could bring everything they have." Ayana sat beside him. "Then we prepare. We know the land. We know each other. We survive, Jace. That's what we do." Taya added softly, "We're not alone anymore. We have a home and we'll defend it. Together." Jace looked at them, feeling a deep sense of pride and responsibility. He realized that the sisters had brought more than skills. They had brought life back to his lonely existence, purpose to his days, and a reason to fight. Over the next week, they fortified the ranch further. Hidden turrets, energy shields, and false pathways made the homestead nearly impenetrable. The sisters trained with Jace, teaching him the tricks of the desert, ways to move silently, and strategies to anticipate attacks. Even the enhanced cattle became part of the plan, alerting them to intruders with subtle changes in behavior. Jace began to notice the sisters' bond growing stronger, not just with each other, but with him. Laughter returned to the compound, small moments of joy amidst the ever-present threat. Nights around the fire became a time to share stories. Ayana spoke of old Apache rituals adapted to the desert, Nayeli of machines she had built and repaired, and Taya of dreams she still hoped to chase across New Terra. Scouts still passed in the distance, and energy readings indicated that the corporations were aware of their resistance. The sisters understood that their freedom came at a cost. One night, as Jace looked out toward the dunes, he felt a mixture of dread and anticipation. The desert was vast, but so was the reach of those who hunted them. Still, with the sisters by his side, he felt ready. He knew they would not only survive, they would fight, adapt, and thrive. And as the first glow of dawn lit the horizon, Jace realized something profound. In a world filled with greed and violence, the Apache sisters had not just been rescued, they had awakened a new strength in him. And together they would face whatever New Terra threw at them, for they had something more powerful than weapons or machines: trust, unity, and the courage to protect what they loved. The desert wind carried their determination across the dunes, a quiet promise to anyone who would dare challenge them. This small ranch, this unlikely family, would not fall, not ever. Days passed in tense silence after the last skirmish. The desert of New Terra stretched endlessly, glowing golden in the harsh sun, but the calm was deceptive. Jace Callahan stood on the ridge, binoculars in hand, scanning the distant horizon. Faint dust clouds rose again, small but deliberate. The mercenaries had returned, but this time they were not alone. The full force of a corporation's strike team was moving toward the ranch. Inside the compound, the sisters were alert. Ayana examined the perimeter, noting weak points in the natural barriers. Nayeli adjusted sensors and reprogrammed defensive drones for maximum efficiency. Taya studied maps and drone footage, predicting the likely approach routes of the enemy. Their coordination was seamless, built on trust, instinct, and countless hours spent together defending the ranch. Jace approached them quietly. "They're coming. We need to be ready for more than just tests this time." Ayana's eyes narrowed. "We expected this, but we're ready. They may have machines, weapons, numbers, but we have the desert, our knowledge, and each other." The strategy was simple but risky. The ranch itself would serve as bait. The sisters and Jace would lure the attackers into a series of traps and ambush points, forcing them to fight on uneven terrain where their numbers mattered less.